Good evening, everybody. This particular presentation would be on the process of writing a science fiction story. And the need for discussing something such as this is because we are living in times in which we are constantly being pushed to innovate, to think of newer solutions to existing problems. And I believe science fiction has the capacity to provide us similar solutions of this particular kind. So the first step of writing a science fiction story is choosing the theme of the story. Now, since a science fiction story is always going to be about the future, therefore, the theme of the story has to be something that is going to be relevant in the future. Many of science fiction writers who have come before us, they have chosen to set their science fiction stories in the distant future. However, uh, in order to be much more realistic in our futuristic science fiction stories, we should actually focus upon the future of the next 10 years. Keeping that in mind, we can think of climate, society, deviant technology such as AI, space travel, or alien encounters as possible themes. After we have chosen the theme, the time has actually come to construct the story world in which we are going to set our story. Now, the story world is made up of the entire physical, as in material, as well as the ideological, uh, tenets that are going to govern this particular futuristic society. This particular physical story world is going to be the hallmark of the story because the entire action is going to be based in this particular story, and therefore care has to be taken to properly delineate as to what are the important elements of this particular physical story world, so that the reader can carefully understand as to where exactly is the story taking place. We then move to the third point, which is the list of characters, and this particular list of characters is actually going to be drawn upon uh, the characters that you are going to come around in your everyday life, and the intent to do so is because we have to increase the believability of these characters. So the believability can be increased by carefully isolating the motivations that we come across on a day-to-day basis, and which we believe are going to be still a part of our society and individual personalities in the coming futures too. Finally, this is the most important element, which is identifying the conflict that is going to drive our story. Since Aristotelian times, this particular idea that a narrative ought to be mimetic, it is something that has governed literary narratives. However, Aristotelian mimesis does not actually fully talk about how the world of the characters actually moves, and 19th and 20th century sociological studies have identified that conflict is what actually pushes the narrative of a particular society or any particular literary narrative or social narrative. So we have to identify as to what that particular conflict would be, and in the case of science fiction stories, this particular conflict could be coming out of a deviant technology which is trying to destroy society. It could be an outcome of the scientific endeavors that we have attempted in our own times. It could be a conflict that emerges owing to certain social tendencies that had been otherwise suppressed and which are now actually liberated because of some particular phenomena, socio-economic phenomena. Finally, once we have identified all these elements, the time has actually come to prepare the first draft of the story. And writing the first draft of the story would be primarily based upon the entire story with introduction, introduction of the characters, introduction of the theme, introduction of the story world, followed by the main action, and then a particular possible resolution to the conflict that has been envisioned in that particular narrative. Now, this particular tendency, you know, of writing the first draft. It's something that is not going to produce an outrightly perfect story. Therefore, it has to be revisited, and the best manner to revisit it and figure out what are the shortcomings in that particular story is to read the story after like 24 hours, so that you can yourself find out as to what are the internal inconsistencies, be it motivational, be it narrative, and so on and so forth. So after 24 hours, read your own story, and you'll be able to find out whether at what point of time the story falls apart, or it actually, moves ahead in a smooth manner. Once you have completed your first draft and another, attempted a second draft, even a third draft, uh, arrive at a particular draft which you believe is going to be the final draft, which as per you is the final draft, and then send it out to your friends, and then get a feedback from them in order to understand as to where exactly does that particular story needs more work upon. So in this particular manner, you can write your own short story around a science fiction theme. Thank you.